What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn Spoilercast. I was really worried I was going to mess that up. I had it in front of me, but
it's a long title.
I was reading it, but I still thought it would be just kind of a tongue twister.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. I'm Josiah Leroy. With me, as always, my good friend Jeff Pavlak.
Hey, dude.
Hey, Jeff. So we just saw Birds of Prey, and we'll get to just some overall reaction on the movie. We're going to deep dive into what we saw, the cast, the crew, everything about it. But first off, first impressions. Jeff, what do we think of Birds of Prey? First kind of big comic book movie of 2020.
I think a lot of people who see this will have a similar response. This is what Suicide Squad should have been 3.5 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Between the tone and it kind of had this go for broke spirit that, like, say, Aquaman had, where nothing was too silly to be included in this movie. Nothing was too irreverent. Nothing was too violent. Nothing was too vulgar to go in here. It very much earned the R rating. And
it lets you know that right away.
Oh, yeah.
It drills it into us.
Right. And I mean, we've seen now between Logan, Joker, R-rated superhero movie, and Deadpool, that's another one. R-rated superhero movies can make big money at the box office. The limitation of, age groups, that it doesn't kill box office receipts if the movie is popular enough. So I think this is exactly what Suicide Squad should have been. However, back then, the DCEU was in such a mess at the time, and we didn't really know yet if R-rated superhero movies could draw like the PG-13 and under.
It's funny too. Like, Suicide Squad was the movie that year, so 2016. Other than Rogue One, for me, that was a surefire bet. I thought.
I think a lot of people thought that.
So it was shocking to hear the first impressions of that, and that it wasn't a good movie, and how stuff was coming out that, like, it was missing the mark almost everywhere. And I'll say, so I reviewed it, and I was much more easy on it than I think most critics were. And to a degree, I stand behind it, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily a good movie. But Birds of Prey, like Jeff said, is what, to an extent, it should have been. Very self-aware movie. It kind of unleashed what the best part of Suicide Squad was, which was Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, and gave her really her own movie, or at least her own leading role. There was a lot of fun kind of dichotomy here with background stuff on the Joker and his underlying presence throughout, and nice Batman references. It doesn't let you forget that you're in Gotham too. And
I feel like just the environments and the architecture, and just some of, like, the culture you were seeing in Gotham. This felt like the Gotham I know from, say, Batman the Animated Series, the Tim Burton movie, some of the comics, where it's a very stylized, almost like a Victorian era kind of Gotham. This didn't just feel like Pittsburgh, which is kind of what you got from the Nolan trilogy.
Sure.
Where it was a very realistic, very grounded kind of Gotham. This felt like a comic booky kind of Gotham.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and not quite as silly as Suicide Squad in a way. So this was a different kind of silly. This was more fun. This was more quality. Whereas Suicide Squad, I felt like, with all of its graphics, all of its colors that it threw at you, it wasn't executed properly.
No, not at all.
And you're right. The DCEU was really in a tough spell there. We had Batman versus Superman, which is a better movie than most people remember it to be. I feel, especially with that extended cut that we've talked about. But it was going up against Captain America Civil War. The DCEU really had not been established yet. That was movie number 2. There was just Man of Steel before it.
Right.
So Suicide Squad had a lot to bring home. It missed the mark. Thankfully, we got Birds of Prey. And we're going to get kind of a... who knows what the Suicide Squad is coming out in a few years from James Gunn, but I can't wait for that.
Next year. Not even a few years.
Really?
Yeah, next summer.
Oh, man, I hope that
August, I believe.
I hope that holds true. I know shooting was about to begin, if not already underway for that.
Yes, I believe so as well.
So hopefully that holds true and that comes out on time, because that'll also get us to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So, box office early on here. Again, we just saw this. Obviously, spoilers. If you have not seen the movie, you're going to want to wait to listen to this podcast or watch us on YouTube. Just bookmark it and come back to it later. But according to Hollywood Reporter, it looks like Birds of Prey is going to fly to $50 million at the domestic box office. It's a pretty good opening weekend for a movie.
It's an R-rated movie, and on top of that, this doesn't need to make a gargantuan amount of money at the box office because the budget on this was much lower than your typical blockbuster. This kind of continued the string of DC movies that were significantly smaller in terms of budget and marketing than your average superhero blockbuster. You had Joker before that, as well as Shazam. So these don't need to make $1 billion at the box office to be profitable, although Joker ended up doing that regardless, but that's a whole other story.
Oh, absolutely. The budget estimated about 80 to 90 million after tax incentives and rebates, according to the Hollywood Reporter. So not bad, especially for the start there. The first R-rated movie, as we mentioned here in the DCEU, I felt like it didn't have to be. Actually, there was nothing in there that I thought we needed to have to make this the movie that it was.
Maybe not this movie, but I think if you're using Black Mask, if you want to get the best out of him, you have to have an R-rated movie.
Did we get the best out of Black Mask, you think?
No, we did not. But we have that.
Okay.
We have that later on the list of topics.
Absolutely.
And Zaz. I mean, if you're going to use him to his full potential, you can't hold back.
Yeah, those are valid points for sure. I've always thought that when you throw F-bombs into movies, it's got to kind of be warranted. I think you use it to make an emphasis or really... I think it oftentimes shows kind of a weak bit of dialogue or writing. There's so many F-bombs in there.
There's a lot.
And it felt lazy to me at times. I'm not offended by the F word, but it felt like, come on,
I think one of the very first sentences of the movie has one.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Harley's opening monologue has like the second or third sentence.
She definitely did. It was very early on. How about we're gonna get into more Harley Quinn here, obviously shortly. But how did you like the fourth wall breaking?
It was fun.
I loved it.
Yeah,
I did not anticipate that from her.
Well, Harley has really become DC's slapstick kind of character, and you especially saw that with the animated series that came out on the DC streaming service recently
with Kaylee Cuoco, right?
Yes.
Yep.
So they're really maximizing her comedic value at this point.
Yeah, they should. And it's funny, like you look at how long Batman and characters stemming from that universe have been around and other DC properties, and Harley Quinn is really not very old.
Right.
We're just going back to the early 90s with the animated series.
Right. She's not a product of the comics, which is very rare for just superheroes.
Oh, it totally is. And I love seeing in the credits too, which probably goes without saying, but Harley Quinn as created by Paul Dini and I'm forgetting the other individual's name from the animated series, but that
I'm drawing a blank as well, but I will pull that up immediately. Bruce Timm.
Bruce Timm. And Harley Quinn too was bolstered in popularity by the Arkham games that came out in the late 2000s. If you are a video gamer, but this movie here, did it remind you of any other movies? It kept circulating through a few in my head. I wanted to ask you before I said anything.
There's two.
Okay.
I would say the Kill Bill movies.
Okay.
For the overall really stylized take on it.
Interesting.
And
I like
some
it.
of the action sequences, and then John Wick, which I think
very interesting.
Which I think that's not too much of a surprise though, because John Wick's director Chad Stahelski oversaw some of the action sequences for this.
How about even with the storyline, with putting the bounty on the girl and basically everybody going after her? That reminded me a little bit of the end of John Wick 2 as we get into chapter 3.
Okay, yeah.
He's got
I was wondering where you were going with that for a second.
I actually thought that it was a lot like John Wick just from that viewpoint.
I can see that.
Where it was like, okay, like this girl's got a crazy high bounty on her head. We're going to go get her.
Yeah.
Just as John Wick did in the end of chapter 2 going into 3.
And instead of a pit bull, she has a hyena.
Exactly. That's another nice comparison. With regards to the movies I thought, so I like the Kill Bill there. I think that's really solid.
Mm-hmm.
I thought in so many ways it seemed influenced by Deadpool and Deadpool 2,
well, that
maybe
too, yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
R-rated superhero movie, but it felt very much like that, even down to her kind of befriending the child.
Hard to
Like
disagree with that.
Yeah. So that was there. A lot of the goofiness, of course, from what we would see in Deadpool was here too. And it's funny. I read some impressions that said it reminded them of Guardians of the Galaxy a little bit. I didn't take that too much. I thought the ensemble, as we got towards the end of the movie, became a little bit like that, especially the first moment when they all come together and they decide that they have to work together to get out of their predicament. I felt like that was like the moment in Guardians when they all stand up and rock in the circle for the first time.
Although Guardians has, for as much humor as it also has way more sentimentality than this.
For sure. There's those characters people adore and they feel a connection to. This was a little bit more disconnected.
Right. I mean, there's a couple legit tearjerkers in the first Guardians movie.
Oh, man.
You weren't seeing that in this.
No, for sure not. But maybe we get some of that when we get to the Suicide Squad with James Gunn.
We got opportunity.
That's right. Some Easter eggs, right? We're going a little bit all over the map here. But I don't know if this was a thing or not, or if I imagined it. I'm going to have to confirm later. But when Harley is in the police station and she's walking out after having basically pretty much shot everybody just before she goes to find the child, she goes, "Oh, I know him." And I thought that was Captain Boomerang on the wall on a wanted poster.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but at a quick
glance.
It
could have. I thought it was just some random. I thought it was some random like extra earlier in the movie that didn't get assigned a name.
It could have been. I thought that was a nod back to Suicide Squad.
I want to rewatch that now.
Yeah,
because he is coming back for the Suicide Squad.
Is he
next
really?
Year. Yes.
Interesting.
I'm almost positive.
So that would make sense.
You're gonna make me double check now because you questioned it, but I'm almost positive of that.
Speaking of Suicide Squad callbacks here, as we've kind of been harping on that movie, I liked that they kind of were going through her wardrobe.
Right.
And they showed the Danny's Little Monster shirt that she wore and kind of like, no.
Yep.
Like, get rid of it.
Jai Courtney. Coming back, Captain Boomerang.
Interesting. Really intrigued to see what kind of movie this is. Do we know if it is a straight up reboot or if it's existing in the same universe? I don't think anyone knows.
The terminology has never been
It's
defined.
never been clear at all for us.
They said it's not a sequel, but it's not a reboot. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be closer to a continuation of Birds of Prey, if anything, because we know Harley's going to be in it.
I think it's within this DCEU.
Right.
And I think they're trying to say it's not a sequel because of... They want to distance it from...
Sure. I mean...
Why wouldn't you want to?
Yeah,
right?
no, at this point, they want to, completely distance themselves from those earlier movies because they had brand damage after them.
They did, for sure. And that was seemingly going to be gold. And even I remember going into it, when we watched all the trailers, we thought maybe we'd get a Guardians vibe, which is ironic that James Gunn is kind of taking that over.
Yeah.
because of all the music that we saw in those trailers. But I swore that was him. And since he's coming back, that would make all the more sense to tease that.
You may be right on that. I want to rewatch this now.
Yeah.
And just zoom in on that wanted poster.
Well, when they're going through the wardrobe and she gives Montoya kind of like that red number, is that? I feel like that is from. It could be just a generic thing, but I felt like that was from Arkham City. I'll have to look that up again. That might be
like
a
that
deep dive
vest kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The other thing that, again, I probably am making up in my head, but I thought at a quick glance I saw, when we see Montoya kind of wallowing in her self-pity, she's drinking away, and she's about to light on fire all her evidence in her bedroom.
Yeah.
I thought as she was leaving, the background TV was an image of Joker from the movie in the fall.
Oh, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
Yes, like she was watching an old school comedy show and it looked like it was his stand-up from when he was on the Murray. Was it Murray? Was that the guy's name?
Yes.
When he was on that show. Again, I don't know if I just wanted to see this, but I thought, because it held long enough that it seemed like the movie was trying to point us to looking at it. We'll have to look up some Easter eggs here shortly.
I'm going to totally want to Look for that now too.
But that would be a really nice nod.
That'd be fantastic.
And also, even though Joker is really its own thing, the movie we're talking about, it would be a nice way to connect it to this universe in some odd way to say that, yeah, it happened in the past.
Just a ha-ha moment.
It was there, I love little things like that. We'll have to look up some more Easter eggs. One thing, you know what, maybe I'll circle around when we get to the cast here. But why don't we get into a little bit of how this movie tried to distance itself, not just from Suicide Squad, but really from the Joker that we saw from Suicide Squad with Jared Leto.
Yeah.
There were a lot of not so subtle nods starting off with the first 5 minutes of the movie here. What did you think of what they were trying to do with all of that?
I think it's the right call.
Yeah.
He's a tarnished property in terms of the Joker.
Yep.
He's a punchline.
I watched Suicide Squad last night in prep for this as I was doing some other work, and oh my gosh, like, it's bad.
I mean, I love Jared Leto as an actor, and I don't think his portrayal was as bad as other people make it out to be. But the fact of the matter is, the prevailing consensus is that he was terrible, and he's just a running gag that you can't have as part of your movie brand.
And there's a big risk.
Yeah.
To from the studio standpoint, to portray that character how they did and go for it, and with a big name like that. But again, it's a style choice and a preference and a flavor with how they portrayed the Joker, and it just didn't work, and it was bad.
I think a good part of the reason why we got the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie was because the audiences so hated Jared Leto's Joker.
I mean, think back to not far after Suicide Squad. I felt like that was news that was coming quickly. I even remember reporting on it on a week of The Week in Geek, which we used to do this weekly news segment. And I think even Jared Leto sounded like he was confused because he thought he was going to be getting his own movie.
Yeah.
And then we realized, oh no, they're taking it in a totally different direction. This is going to be some really dark, R-rated, it seems like, movie. And obviously it ended up being R-rated. And then it was going to be recast, and it's not going to be connected to the DCEU. And it ended up being wonderful,
right?
By the way.
It was the right call.
Yeah, and we don't need all of these interconnected universe movies for them to be successful. And I think DC learned its lesson with that.
Big time.
And honestly, we'll get more into the DCEU shortly, but they've done a nice job, and we'll kind of chronicle where they've gone since the misstep that was Suicide Squad. But at almost every moment, they're talking about cutting ties from Joker. There's an underlying theme that Harley Quinn is a big enough character now that she doesn't need to be famous by association anymore.
No,
that she can kind of hold her own.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, you can probably speak much more to the quality of the Harley Quinn animated series. Like, she is in that group now where we've said Wonder Woman is kind of taken over DC's lead for Superman and Batman, at least where we stand at this point in time in popularity. Harley Quinn is right up there with Joker, but not necessarily next to Joker, right?
Harley Quinn is absolutely one of DC's biggest characters right now. There's no denying that.
She is their Deadpool in the sense of popularity.
Yeah.
I would say. Kind of this crazy character that is off on their own in terms of what the style of the character is, who they are. So it's good to see. I've always been a huge fan as well.
You're going to see a lot of Harley Quinn cosplay this year, and then for Halloween costumes.
First thing I thought
Guaranteed.
of. Yep. Any outfit change, you're getting more of it. So why don't we go through some of the cast here? We'll start with Margot Robbie, of course, as Harley Quinn. I think it's one of the best superhero movie castings we've ever gotten. She just really connects to that character. She brought to life the animated version that we've known and loved for the better part of over 2 decades now. Or actually just shy of 2 decades, I should say. And I think in this one, it felt like she played her different than she did in Suicide Squad while being the same Harley Quinn.
There was definitely, I would say, a heavier comedic element to her in this one, and almost more of just like Margot really seemed to have settled into the role by now, and granted she had for Suicide Squad as well, but like this felt like it was second nature to her now, where it's like, okay, I know this character like the back of my hand. I'm just going with the flow on this. Like, she is just natural at this role by now. She's really settled in, and she played a big role in this movie being made as well. Margot Robbie did a lot of work to get this idea up off the ground, to get DC and Warner to commit to a Harley solo movie. So without her efforts and her passion for the character, we probably don't get this movie. That's
saying a lot. And that kind of mirrors, too, Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool. Right? Like, those movies exist because of him and his passion towards that character. I thought in this one, you're right. Maybe she's just more slapstick. Like, she settled into the role. In looking at Suicide Squad or watching that again last night, she's so good. She's so good in that movie. She is every bit the redeeming moments that we see throughout the film. If there are redeeming moments, it's all her. And in that one, she is kind of, even though she is really the runaway star, she is second fiddle to Will Smith's character in that movie. It's not about her.
Right.
It's about his, Deadshot's story.
Yeah. He's the main character if there is one.
Yeah. Which, it's fine, but we wanted this. The fans have spoken, and we got a Birds of Prey movie. So I do encourage you to go out and see it. You vote with your wallet, and this is a big. We just talked about box office numbers and how well it sounds like this is going to do. Go vote with your wallet, see this movie, and it'll encourage DC to keep doing what they're doing with this stuff.
Agreed.
Ewan McGregor is Black Mask. What do we think?
As soon as he put on the mask, I loved him. Everything before that, didn't hate it. It's just not my ideal Black Mask.
This was not Black Mask to me either.
Yeah, I mean, it's not completely unheard of for Black Mask to have any kind of comedic elements to him, but the flamboyant and almost kind of childish nature, it's just not my ideal Black Mask. I like the sadistic, absolutely ruthless and sinister Black Mask that we've seen, whether in video games, in some of the darker comic book storylines. I mean, they got the costume perfect. That mask was, and then when he had the suit on, the DC movies have, for the most part, done a fantastic job with outfits and costumes. So this one was another case of that. And there was an identifiable turning point for his portrayal, though, in the club scene where he absolutely berates the one girl, and it gets dark and tense in a real hurry. That's what I wanted to see more
Same.
of.
I agree with that. His character felt a little bit goofy, and it didn't work for me. I felt like almost like Sam Jackson in Kingsman.
Yeah.
I like Sam Jackson in Kingsman, but here
maybe there's another comparison now. The Kingsman movies have some similarities to this.
Wow, yeah.
I just thought of that now.
With not so much the violence, but the action sequences.
And the tone, I mean, they're both, really over the top.
What do we think of those action sequences? Like, this was not one or two. This was consistent throughout.
Yeah,
you had these big fight scenes.
The fight scenes were really good in this, especially in the Funhouse. I thought the choreography in that was really, really good. And then I'm sure that's where you see some of Chad Stahelski's proficiency on display.
Yeah, they
crushed
it.
Choreographing action.
And they nailed the dynamic of Harley Quinn being such the acrobat that she was.
Yeah.
Right? Like, every little flip and somersault, that was awesome.
She was great.
With Ewan McGregor, I felt like everyone loves Ewan McGregor these days, especially, he's coming back for Kenobi on Disney Plus. That's going to be exciting. He didn't do anything to tarnish my view of him in this movie. I felt like it was an odd take on Black Mask, and had we had a darker, more serious one, like we had with regards to the scene you're referencing with the turning point, I feel like that might have made Harley Quinn even funnier. Because if she didn't take him seriously and he was always serious, morbid, awful guy, and she was always joking in his face, I think it might have made it funnier.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, what they were going for.
It's often been compared like Joker is chaotic, whereas Black Mask is evil. And that's how I've always kind of interpreted the characters. Like, Black Mask isn't psychotic. He is just plain evil.
I think that's fair. Switching gears here, Chris Messina as Zaz. That's an odd take on Zaz too. I mean, there's not. It wasn't like super off base with him, but like kind of a weird relationship with Black Mask.
And it's a smaller role. I mean, he felt like the henchman for the most part. And I mean, Zaz is not necessarily an A-list Batman villain, but he wasn't given enough time to really make an impact.
The Zaz we got in the Gotham TV series is maybe my favorite one ever. He's dead serious, very intense, but he has these really light, funny moments, and it works with him. It's not goofy.
Yeah.
And not that Zaz needs to be funny. I'm just saying I ended up liking that character. We've got a really nice ensemble here.
Yeah, from here, I'm going to speak positively to pretty much every portrayal.
I would say my favorite non-Margot Robbie character was actually Huntress.
Oh, okay. I got a different one then.
And, I could make an argument for a few other ones.
Right.
But Huntress is played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
A wonderful actress.
I
love her work.
Was great in this because she was awkward.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have anticipated that, right? Like, she's supposed to be this cool, badass chick that just is smooth, and she's an assassin, but she can talk just as well as she can shoot. Well, she can't. She's super awkward. And I loved it because there was such a human element to that, despite her being this cold assassin, right? And a really nice backstory.
Yeah.
Which, remind you of anything? Bruce Wayne?
Oh, totally.
Like, am I right? So, I really, especially as we got towards the end and we got more dialogue between her and her fellow comrades, I really became a big fan. And the crossbow, that was really cool.
It was funny.
So
I would like to have seen more of her. I wish this movie was maybe an extra 10 minutes longer so that Huntress could have gotten a little more screen time.
An ensemble with this crew throughout most of a movie would be fun.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Now that they've set this up, throw all of them in there and give them the screen time they deserve.
Yeah. And you still have Margot Robbie as your lead. I think it works out beautifully and kind of stirs the pot. Black Canary, is this where you're going?
Yeah, I thought she stole the show. Journey Smollett-Bell, I thought, did a fantastic job as Black Canary.
Oh, look at her spouse name. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Uh-huh.
So she's married to a Josiah Bell. I did not know that. Incredible.
She did a fantastic job. And it's been really cool the last few days as reactions were coming out, as we were getting closer to the release. Gail Simone, a longtime writer of the Gotham heroines, she was expressing how much she loved the movie and how much she particularly loved Journey Smollett-Bell's portrayal as Black Canary. And Journey Smollett-Bell just took that as such a huge compliment. Like, she expressed that she was so honored that Gail Simone really liked her portrayal. And it's great because this is really Journey Smollett-Bell's first major film credit. She's done a lot of TV work. She's been in True Blood, Friday Night Lights, and then especially this is her first blockbuster work. So I'm really happy for her. She really seemed to love the character. She was very, very pleased with the praise she's been getting, and she deserves that. I thought she did a great job as Black Canary.
We were hoping to see maybe a little bit of a bigger DC Universe connection.
Right.
In our post-credit scene is rumored.
Yeah, there was a rumor floating around the last few days on social media that the post-credit scene was going to be something along the lines of Green Arrow showing up and saying that he's searching for Black Canary. That was not the case, but that would have been really cool, especially because Arrow is ending later this year. The TV show is in its final season, so that would have been ideally maybe the perfect time to bring Green Arrow into the cinematic universe now. But
I thought so too. That would
another
nice
day, I guess.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. We've got a lot of nice things going on in the DCEU right now. Believe it or not, we do.
No, they're on a hot streak now.
We'll get to it.
Absolutely are.
Rosie Perez as Renee Montoya. So Rosie, all I kept thinking about the entire time was her role in Pineapple Express. I love that movie so much. That's one of my favorite comedies. James Franco is just gold in that movie. But she played a nice character too. Obviously, again, self-aware, how they made fun of her for being the cheesy cop from the 80s.
Yeah.
Right. That was really nice. So I thought she played a nice round-out role.
Like, she tries to be level-headed, but she knows she's not either. She knows she's a bit of a hothead and just as, in her own way, crazy as the rest of these outrageous characters that she's fighting alongside.
And then we get to the child here, the youngest star on the cast, Ella J. Bosco, who plays Cassandra Cain. Only 13 years old in real life.
She was great.
She's very good in such an intense movie.
I thought she did a great job.
She's not allowed to see this movie
right,
from
a
rating standpoint. Yeah, she was good. I liked her better than I liked Russell in Deadpool 2, if we're comparing. I liked her relationship with Harley Quinn, kind of like a sisterly thing they had going on.
I like that
motherly.
too. Yeah, that's probably the only heartwarming part of this movie, but it was.
Yeah.
I like that too.
There was
Squeaky shoes down there. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's a little snowy outside.
Oh man, I know. As soon as we're done here, you got to bolt.
Yeah.
Thank
God for automatic car starts, man.
Yeah, that's for sure. I really liked. There were some nice emotional elements. So I know we talked about in Guardians how there's some endearment with those characters and how we feel towards them. I thought there's a little bit of that with Harley Quinn. As crazy as she is, as heartless as she can be, she really cares about certain things. Obviously, she was fixated on the Joker. And then she became fixated on her relationship with her landlord, right? Downstairs at the restaurant.
Doc.
And then that didn't work out. And then she betrays Cassandra by trying to sell her. And then Cassandra kind of says, hey, I thought you were different. And you can see subtle things here and there. And Harley Quinn, obviously, towards the end, ends up becoming this sisterly character towards her. And I thought it was just, it was well written and well executed. I think that's pretty much it in terms of cast members.
Bruce the Hyena also stole the show for me.
Nice that he's named after Batman.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
I just love that they threw the hyena into there.
That was pretty awesome. No doubt about it.
That's an example of this movie not being afraid of being too comic booky. Nothing is too outrageous or silly for this. I'm really glad that they went ahead with that. Bruce the Hyena was basically what the drumming octopus was in Aquaman. Just embrace your origins and embrace the comic booky, colorful nature of this property.
The one moment that I would have been like, that's ridiculous, if I saw in a lot of other movies, was when Black Canary let out her high-pitched note singing-wise and blew away all the enemies towards the end of the movie. I was like, come on, that's so ridiculous. But then I'm like, hey, this is Birds of Prey. This is supposed to be fun. And then we see Harley Quinn on roller skates, which is hilarious. And right after, we see Black Canary go, when did she have time to change shoes? That was hysterical. So Margot Robbie's chasing down the car in roller skates.
And I just realized now her asking when did she have the time to change the shoes is almost like a self-aware nod to what do you call it? Continuity errors. Like where something happens off screen that the audience doesn't see, or there's some kind of visual element that's conflicting with an earlier scene.
Yeah, I was definitely
it's a funny
into
way
it.
to poke fun at that. I mean, I might be reading too much into it, but
all right, I'm pulling up.
I love the Black Canary scream. I mean, that's the character for me. I love that superpower.
We're gonna take a look at just at a Screen Crush article about some of the Birds of Prey Easter eggs here. We're just gonna see here
see if it's
yeah. Janus Corporation. That was interesting. There we go. All right.
Yeah. Wow, you were right.
Yeah. All right.
Nice catch, man.
It says, "Hey, I know that guy," and of course, that was Captain Boomerang.
Nice catch.
Thanks, man. I just want to see if I was anywhere close to base on Joker being there or not. I think that's probably a stretch.
No, I mean, no. If you are right, that may have been such a subtle one that maybe Screen Crusher or everyone else didn't notice it yet.
I'm gonna keep digging on that one, but there is a nice article if you Google Birds of Prey Easter eggs. Screen Crush came up on there for us, so we'll take a look. So we'll kind of round things out here for the movie. We'll close with just our final thoughts on it, but first, the DC Extended Universe. It was never fair for them to ever think or for fans to ever see them as competition for what was going on with Marvel Cinematic Universe, which was such a trailblazer and continues to be such an immensely successful franchise. Those movies average $1 billion a screening or a release, which is unprecedented with 23 movies released to date. So the DCEU was never going to catch up. It was never going to work from a cookie-cutter standpoint to try and do what Marvel did. They needed to take their time with it, build their own stories, not look at what Marvel was doing and build their own universe. We started with Man of Steel, which I think is a very good Superman movie.
Doesn't deserve the hate it gets.
Absolutely not. It's a wonderful, wonderful film. I encourage everyone to watch it if you have not. Henry Cavill as Superman is a fantastic superhero casting. He is wonderful. We didn't deserve him. And he ended up walking out. Then
For now.
Unfortunately, movie number 2 ended up being Batman vs. Superman. That movie gets a lot of hate. Not all of it warranted. It wasn't as good as it could have been, of course. But there was no good way for you to bring in Batman, Wonder Woman, and a handful of other characters into your universe after just one movie.
Yeah.
You needed time to build and kind of let these characters stew a bit. And then we got Suicide Squad, which we've talked about enough tonight.
At length.
Probably the worst, I would say, of the
Yeah.
DCEU movies.
I'd agree with that.
Shortly after that, we got a wonderful, wonderful movie. And Wonder Woman, of course. So, probably the best movie in the DCEU. But we all knew we were going to love that movie as soon as Gal Gadot was cast as Wonder Woman. One of our favorite movies at the Geekiverse ever, in our time here. And Wonder Woman 1984 is our most anticipated of this year.
With good reason.
Absolutely. We got Justice League, which was a bit of a flop. Again, not as bad as critics panned it, but a result of a rushed universe. That could have been such an epic movie. Think of all the Avengers coming together for the first time and then getting to Infinity War, even 10, 15 movies later, and how epic it was. That could have been something we saw in Justice League, where these characters are all together. It is what it is. We're not getting it now. So then we go on a string of really, really nice individual movies. We got Aquaman, which is right in the top echelon with Wonder Woman. And then for me, a very close second, if not number 1, Shazam.
I love Shazam as well.
I
think
is
Shazam's
great.
my number 2.
I think it's definitely above Aquaman for me. I don't think it's above Wonder Woman, but I'm kind of in the middle of a rewatch here.
Yeah.
So I'm open-minded about it.
I absolutely adore Shazam.
But that is a fantastic movie. That is their, again, kind of their answer to Deadpool in a way, without having to go the R-rated route. It's great on so many levels. So here we are with Birds of Prey. Not quite on some of the levels of, let's say, Shazam or Wonder Woman, but a fine entry.
Yeah. This was fun.
This is a good movie.
It's a good, fun watch.
Definitely better than Suicide Squad. Not great by any means, but better quality.
Yeah.
Better execution, better writing. Wonderful pacing, I would say. It was a little over 2 hours or close to it.
A little under 2 hours.
It moved pretty quickly for me.
No, this was shorter, especially compared to like Wonder Woman and Aquaman, which both nearly hit 2.5. Those were like 2 hours, 20 minutes each, I think.
Aquaman's a deep one. It is. Seriously,
Yeah, you bum.
even though it's a very good movie, it is, you got to be up for it. No doubt about it. Well, think about it. Like Lord of the Rings, you're not going to watch that movie tired.
No.
That's a long movie. Then you got to soak up every detail for it.
I was ribbing you about the pun, right?
I knew exactly what you're
doing.
doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
I didn't even want to go there.
Just making sure.
Full of puns tonight. Final closing thoughts here on Birds of Prey and where we move forward with the DCEU as we go out to see Wonder Woman 1984, a presumably disconnected Batman movie, and then we'll see after that with the Suicide Squad. What do we think of this movie?
I'll repeat what I said before. That was a good, fun watch. Great action, and I'm really glad that they completely embraced the comic book element of this and said, hey, nothing's off the table, nothing's too silly, nothing's too outrageous. Let's go as over the top as we can. Let's embrace our nature of this and embrace our roots in comic book superhero storytelling.
I'm very much on the same page there. I think the self-awareness, the execution, the writing, everything has gotten a lot better since they stopped worrying about making sure that everything was so connected.
Yeah.
Didn't have to be, and
that
it still
too.
is.
Yeah.
It's been much better. They've slowed down. They've been a little bit more patient, it feels like, from a studio standpoint, and we're enjoying ourselves. The DCEU is much better than the perception is. Out in the public and the kind of the blogosphere, if you will. It's doing much better. It's on a hot streak. Birds of Prey, I think, at least continues that.
Absolutely.
For all things geek, you want to go to thegeekiverse.com. You can watch this episode at youtube.com/thegeekiverse, where we've got new videos every week, or listen to the podcast version on Apple Podcasts or SoundCloud. Jeff, you've got a lot going on here as we get into, well, I was going to say, we've got a month left before spring, and then it's Nickel City season. But we've got kind of an icy tundra out there right now. What are you doing to occupy your time for the Geekiverse and for yourself?
If you've been following my high fantasy trilogy, The Legend of Light, let me first say thank you. I really appreciate all the support and all of the fans that have reached out to me, buying the books, reading them, letting me know what they thought. I'm almost done with the third and final one in this trilogy. We're kind of putting the finishing touches on the manuscript for that. We'll have the first 5 chapters of book 3 available on the website as we've done with the first 2 books. So if you are done with the first 2 and eager to jump into the third and final one, we will have some previews for you coming up soon.
Very exciting. You can follow me on social media at Josiah D. Leroy. I've got a lot going on here at the Geekiverse. You can, if you like our videos and podcasts, as we've mentioned, I co-host a video game podcast with Jeff called Geeks Got Game. We just came out with this month's episode yesterday. As I said, it is a monthly episode. We talked about the top 10 most anticipated games of 2020. And what a great year it looks like it's going to be.
It will be.
I'm
sure of it.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of blockbuster titles as well as 2 new systems coming out. Also, I host a show called Pluscast. If you like Disney Plus, it is all things Disney Plus, whether that's Star Wars, Marvel, or your Disney catalog that you see on the service. We are talking everything about that on a month-to-month basis. Last thing I do want to plug here, it is something called the 11-Day Power Play. So I am honored to be playing on a team. Long story short, if you're not in the Western New York area, the 11-Day Power Play is literally an 11-day hockey game. Takes place downtown Buffalo at the Harbor Center, and proceeds go to a number of charities. First of all, you'll see Oshai Children's Hospital, Camp Good Days, and Roswell Park Cancer Institute, just to name a few. I am raising money through it. You can go right to the 11daypowerplay.com. Just 11daypowerplay.com. Search Josiah Leroy, and you can donate any amount of money. Anything is welcome. We are trying to raise $1 million this year. So I'd love to be a part of that. It would be an honor if you would do so. I am playing for 3 people. My Aunt Sue McGee, who's currently battling cancer, and then 2 that we lost much too soon in Rebecca Herr and Jed Woomer. So those are kind of the names that I'm taking with me. And anyone that you may have lost in your life or you're fighting for, if you donate, you can list their name on my page, and that'll go towards my portion of the event or for who I'll be playing for. Cancer's obviously affected all of us, and this is such a wonderful event here in Buffalo. But you don't have to be in Buffalo to contribute to the great cause. So I'd be honored if you would. For Jeff, for Josiah, I should have just said for me. I don't know why I said for
weird.
Josiah. It was a little bit odd.
I don't know why you went the third person there.
I probably all this crazy stuff with Birds of Prey that we've been talking about. We've enjoyed our time here. We'd love to hear your reactions from Birds of Prey. Visit us at facebook.com/thegeekiverse. Leave your comment and tell us what you think of the movie. You're going to read our official review very shortly from one Peter, the Grumpy Geek. I'm interested to hear his thoughts on it.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. I passed the buck.
I knew I should have taken this one.
Not too late. We'll catch you soon.